What's good, everybody? Welcome into the Early Edge, and it is time for our golf spectacular episode every single week right here at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And I got to tell you, this is the first full-field event of the entire year. It is the Sony Open. 19 of the 39 golfers who played a week ago have stayed over in Hawaii to play this week on a different island and a completely different course. A completely different kind of player is going to do well here. It's a par 70 layout. And so we've got a lot to tell you. Now we do best bets here. We do top 10s, top 20s, long shots, and also a little bit of DFS because I have two of the absolute best golf minds in the business as my partners. Let's bring him in right now. You know him. You love him. First and foremost, he is the counselor of cash, Mr. Nejad. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon and good evening in the sense that we get another weekend of primetime golf, another 4 days of primetime golf, which I'm actually really excited about. I know we're not going to get much of it after this week, if any, but I'm excited for the Sony Open, but I'm excited to watch this thing unfold during nighttime, during when it's dark. That's cool.
It is very, very cool. And for those of you amateurs who live in the East, well, I suppose it would be cool. You don't get to see it very often. But those of us on the West Coast, I'm just kidding. Now, next, don't let his amateur status on Twitter fool you. The man's an absolute savage. Patrick McDonald, good afternoon.
What's going on, gang? Real honor to be with a couple pros like yourself. And like Sia said, you know, primetime golf is fantastic, but I'm not going to lie. I like to get my 8 hours of sleep. So hopefully it'll be nice to wake up to some winners as well.
That would be really nice because it is going to be full-fledged, 144 players. So we got a full morning wave and an afternoon wave, as Sia said, that will lead us right into the evening. All right, let's get right to it because we got a lot to break down, storylines that could affect the betting lines. And it's hard to believe, Sia, we're going to start with you. It's hard to believe that a 20-year-old who is now best friends with Jordan Spieth is your betting favorite this week. But it's true. Everybody loves themselves some of this guy. Who am I talking about?
You're talking about Tom Kim, formerly known as Joohyung Kim. And frankly, he's on a trajectory where he's about to be called Tom Him. And then that's going to be redefined as just him. And that's going to be redefined as the artist formerly known as him. He is literally on that trajectory. But it's a small sample size, so there's a big watch out there. This is a very popular guy. He's the betting favorite, like you say. In DFS, he's going to be the most popular guy because his price isn't prohibitive, and people think he has the best win equity in this tournament, which is probably true. But again, it's golf, right? So we really have to watch out. Things in golf, in particular, don't go as they seem, and we see that week to week. So I just think it's really interesting. Can this 20-year-old continue to rise like this now that all eyes are on him? And he knows that just as well as anybody.
You're damn right he does. By the way, in the chat, Bruce said, such a pro, this Sia. You feel like you're a pro? Stop. Yeah, just such a pro. Just stop. You make me
just
feel
a guy talking sports.
Now, I will say this. I've never understood. I know players can set their own schedule, but I've never understood, Patrick, going and playing in the Century Tournament of Champions and then not staying to play the next week at the Sony Open. And although it's different courses and it's a par 70, all that, but why would you go all the way over there and not play twice, especially when historically it says you could do pretty well? Talk to me.
Not only historically, but with this new PGA Tour schedule where these guys have to play 3 regular events, kind of the big hitters, the top 20 in the PIP, you could easily knock one off really early in the year with the Sony Open. And like you said, 19 out of the 39 players from the Tournament of Champions are playing this week. And that's there's a big trend for success when it comes to that. 17 out of the 24 winners of this tournament, they had previously played in the Tournament of Champions, 9 out of the last 11. And that could be twofold, right? You could say, well, these guys knocked off the rust. But the other side of the story is these guys were in the Tournament of Champions. And a lot of them are on that first page of the odds board. Sia's boy, Tom Kim, Sung J M, Jordan Spieth, defending champion Hideki Matsuyama. So it's a little bit of both. They got some reps under their belt, but they're also just the better players in the end.
That's what I'm saying. If you're one of the better players, stay over there. And now the purses are going up. Everything is going up. And this week led by Tom Kim. And as I mentioned, Jordan Spieth. Now, gentlemen, there's a player that got into this tournament that I want people to start thinking about as we head into the spring and head into the Masters. He got a Masters exemption. And I'm talking about the Order of Merit winner on the Japanese tour last year, Kazuki Higa. And this week, you're going to start to see, he's 27 years old, so he's not super, super young. but man, can this guy play. He won 4 times internationally in 2022. And so now people in America will get to see him for the very first time, and he will be teeing it up at the Masters, and I'm sure he is quite excited about that. All right, those are our storylines that could affect the betting lines. But here at the Early Edge Golf Show, and by the way, if you name it, you're going to get a cool $100 cold, hard cash. That's right. I didn't even tell the snake I was doing this. If you can name this show, just like Big Pick Energy Friday, I will send you $100. No strings attached. So, Patrick, let's start with you because I love sinking my teeth into a little daily fantasy, maybe a little weekly fantasy, whatever you want. Who do you like this week?
Yeah, there's a bunch of options at the top price range. I know Sia said that Tom Kim is going to be super popular, and I tend to agree. So I like Sung J M to start your lineups at $10,300. He's probably going to be around 24% owned, but he's such an ideal fit for this golf course. He has second place finishes at Sedgefield, East Lake, and he's kind of the guy I know I can rely on when looking at the top. And other end of the spectrum, someone I'm fading at the top is Hideki Matsuyama at 10,100. And I understand he's the defending champion, but he spoke to the media last night, East Coast time, that is, and he still has some concerns about his back. He says sometimes it just doesn't feel right. And if you're paying up for a guy over $10,000, you can't have really any injury concerns. And I can't trust him at this moment. His ball striking has fallen off a cliff. Last year, it took a career effort on the putting surfaces to win that tournament. Had to come back from 5 strokes over the last 9 holes over Russell Henley. And so I don't feel comfortable betting or playing him in DFS. And then 2 mid-range guys in the 8K range. I love JJ Spawn this week. I think he'll be around 10% owned. His course history is abysmal. It's so bad. But this is a completely different JJ Spawn. He comes in off a T5 finish at the Tournament of Champions, and that trend, JJ Spawn had never played the week before. This is the first time he's playing back-to-back. He's typically better in his second week out, and he's played well at a few comp courses like Sea Island, Mayakoba as well. And then JT Poston, another guy that played last week at $7,700. I got him around 10% owned as well. And he played well last week, T21. Not a great finish, but led the field in driving accuracy. The rough is up an inch this week compared to prior years, and that's going to be big. He bled strokes around the green and on the green. That typically doesn't happen for JT Post, and those are his strengths, and the ball striking's there. So I like him a bunch this week as well.
I'll tell you right now, educate and entertain. These guys do the work that you do not want to do. Take that last 90 seconds. Let me know if you knew that. I doubt it. Now, I tell my friends all the time, Patrick McDonald is one of the smartest guys I know, and he'll understand why I say that when he sees my picks later in the show. We're very simpatico. Now, see ya. Let me come over to you because I love me some Sanjay. I love me some JJ Spawn, just like Patrick does. Who do you like this week as far as DFS is concerned?
Yeah, by the way, a little note on JJ Spawn. Really nice comeback story for him because you remember that he had a certain diagnosis, perhaps a misdiagnosis, but he was down and out for a few years. I, in fact, remember, maybe my recollection is bad here, but when COVID hit and the Outlaw Tour was the only show in town, which, by the way, you could play DFS with, JJ Spawn entered 1 or 2 of those tournaments, and he didn't even do well in those. And so to see him now coming back and emerging as a top player, at least in this field, or at least, a top 20 player potentially in this field, it's just a really cool story. I think golf is full of cool stories. We just have to, pick it because they're there for the picking. Cameron Davis is a guy I like in DFS. He's going to be somewhat popular at 8,500. That makes sense because you could easily make this guy, 93, 9,200. But I just like his course fit here, and I like his recent form. But also the track record here is very good, and that's certainly something I'm looking for. At 8,500, I think this is about as low as I would go when I'm calculating win equity. Yes, of course, people lower than Cameron Davis can win, but in terms of realistic chances to win, I think Cameron Davis is in the conversation, and you're getting him at 8,500. So I like him quite a bit. Guys in the 7K range that I like, Adam Svensson. I think this is a really good bounce back spot from last week. He came off a pretty bad week, pretty close to dead last, but he was 7th here last year. And I actually think he's a much better course fit this week at the Sony Open than he was at the Century Tournament of Champions. So again, I like the course fit. The wedge game is also very good for both him and Cameron Davis. And the next guy I'm going to say, Russell Knox at 7,200. Another guy that's probably mispriced and therefore has some popularity. So there are pivots in all of these ranges, of course. but Russell Knox fits the description. He's an accurate driver for one. The approach and putting play has been red hot, and you're going to want that here. The wedge play is great. There's nothing not to like about Russell Knox other than the fact that his name is Russell Knox, and you just don't imagine him as a guy that has any sort of win or perhaps top 5 equity. But he's 7,200 here. And so you don't really like, if you top 20 at 7,200, you're probably paying off your price and then some. So those are the 3 guys I've got my eye on.
It's funny because I'm just like you. I never think of Russell Knox other than maybe a head-to-head, on an early Sunday morning before the leaders even come out. Funny story about Adam Svensson. True, just about 6 weeks ago. That little event I played down in Florida, and Curtis Thompson, Lexi's brother, was our pro. We were going through one of the holes, and this young lady was there, and she was like doing a long drive hitting with the group, right? So he started talking to her. He's like, "So how's your man doing?" And she's like, "Oh, we got people calling all the time. All this stuff's coming to the house. And man, it's better than ever." I said, "Who are you talking about?" He goes, "Adam Svensson. That's his girlfriend right there." I was like, "Oh, interesting." And so I got a little inside scoop without getting an inside scoop on what his 2023 is going to look like. So he's going to have a lot of new hats and shirts and maybe a little logo over here. You never know.
So, Coach, that was when you were in Jupiter and you were so busy with the gossip that you forgot to call your boy Sia, who was just 60 miles south. That was that Jupiter trip, right?
It was, but I didn't forget.
I just didn't do it. Good answer.
You walked right into that one. Walked right into that one.
Yes, 1-0. Damn.
Now, I will tell you, a year ago, you guys all know my son, JJ, and he loves him some golf. And we drove about 60 miles south. And I watched Will Zalatoris from behind about 60 yards have a chance to win and couldn't get the job done. And it was Luke List who came from behind that day and won in the dark in sudden death. So my question is this week, we all work at CBS. This month, this year, who's going to be the champion of the Farmers Insurance Open?
Bring on the roars. Oh, yes. Come on. Right on it. Get in. Oh, yes. Major style points.
There is no place like it. You will never see anything else like this in the world of golf.
I am pumped for the start of golf on CBS. By the way, my first event I'm doing for PGA Tour Live, the Players. I'm doing the Players this year. I am pumped for.
That's awesome.
Thank you. All right, let's get into our board for the week. And I got to tell you, I am pumped for this, and it's a very hard week to handicap because players have been off for a few weeks. They've been off for maybe a couple of months, and then they're coming back to here. So, see you, Nejad, the counselor of cash. We want to count a bunch of cash this week. So head-to-head matchups, we believe, is where your money is going to be made week to week to week. Start us off. Who do you like this week?
Yeah, there's a few at some of the big books, DraftKings, Caesars, that I have my eyes on. I'll start with KH Lee minus 135 over Mackenzie Hughes. Now, listen, minus 135, there's some juice there, of course, but I think KH Lee is in a much better position over 72 holes to beat Mackenzie Hughes. The track record for both of these guys is a little sketchy, some good, a lot of bad, but KH Lee's recent form and course fit, I absolutely love. KH Lee, for the record, the approach and the putting have been very hot for him. And again, good course fit here, being, a relatively shorter hitter. Mackenzie Hughes, look at the strokes gain metrics if that's what you want to look at. He hasn't done anything well other than putting. So, and for the record, KH Lee and DraftKings, if you want to pay any attention to this, KH Lee is 8,700, Mackenzie Hughes is 7,500. So these guys are in very different tracks in terms of like the DraftKings pricing and the odds for that matter. And so I just think KH Lee at minus 135 is still pretty good value over Mackenzie Hughes. The next one, speaking of good value, listen, I concede that I'm not necessarily with everybody else that Tom Kim is just going to dominate these shorter courses, that he is the man and, all this, because it's golf and there's so many people in this field that are talented. But I like Keegan Bradley in this tournament. I do. But Tom Kim, I like more than I like Keegan Bradley. So again, I'm paying a little bit of juice here, minus 130, but it almost feels like a trap because I think this should be minus 150. And again, cred to Keegan Bradley. I like him, but I'm getting Tom Kim exposure here. If I want to fade him in DFS, which I may fade him certainly more than most people, give me the head-to-head market. So I have like a dog in the fight when it comes to Tom Kim. The next one is going to be Cam Davis minus 115 over Billy Horschel. there's some sharp people I know that like Billy Horschel this week outright in DFS, but I just think Cam Davis right now is the better player, especially with Billy Horschel, audibly telling us that he's got some issues with his swing, that he was potentially not even going to play this tournament. I'm just going to take the edge I feel I have with that, with an emerging Cam Davis and a Billy Horschel who perhaps isn't optimal Billy Horschel right now. And at -115, don't mind the juice there. I'll throw in one more for day one. And this is kind of one where, buyer beware, because this is +140 for a reason. And if you don't want to take this bet, I totally get it. Like we always say on the early edge, we're going to give you the information behind the bets. You can decide whether you want to take it or not. But this one is Russell Knox +140 over Brian Harman. I think Knox right now is kind of like a poor man's Brian Harman. And I think over 18 holes +140 is a pretty good price. He's been great on approach and great with the putter. He's certainly mispriced at 7,200. Now, Brian Harman has been very good as well. Finishing positions have been very good, whereas, Russell Knox doesn't really get you there, but it's one round. And +140 with Russell Knox playing as well as he is, I think I'm willing to dabble a little something on that.
Full transparency, we never talk before the show because we don't want to influence each other's picks. And if somebody sends in a pick first, they get to play that pick. My favorite head-to-head matchup of the week, Sia, was Tom Kim over Keegan Bradley.
Love it.
I just think I can't believe we get it at -130. Even
totally
though I think
agree.
Part of the reason is Keegan's number 2 in the FedEx Cup standings because he won in the fall. But to me, that doesn't translate to better than him this week. I love your explanation. And I love that play for -130. Patrick, big boy, you're up next. What do you got?
We're going straight to Keegan Bradley.
Hey, I like him. That's the thing. I just don't like him like I like Tom Kim.
That's true. This can all work. It can all work.
Yeah. It's going to be Tom Kim number 1, Keegan Bradley number 2, way down the board, Mav McNeely.
Yeah.
It's really a ball striker versus a putter. Mav's tee to green game is really unreliable. He was all putter during the fall, and I just can't trust someone like that, especially on these greens where we've seen guys like Corey Connors putt very well here. Ball strikers and poor putters tend to pop up like a Tom Hoagie type as well. And so Keegan has a pair of T12s here the last 3 years. Something similar to that will get the job done over McNeely. And then I like Russ Henley -115 over Hoagie. Obviously had the heartbreak finish last year to Hideki. He's won here in the past. Hoagie went to the TCU Georgia game, probably left around halftime to come back to Hawaii, get some reps in. But I understand the irons were there for him at Kapalua, but I don't really like the travel back and forth. And I think Henley's just a much better play in general. And then JT Poston -120 over Harris English. English had that injury that he's coming back from in the fall. Extremely volatile. He could triple bogey one hole, birdie 3 in a row. And JT Poston coming off a solid week last week. I like his floor a lot more. And like KH Lee, I love him every which way this week. I unfortunately missed the number with him in the outright market, so I had to pass. But -120 over an Adam Scott is a play I really like. And Brian Harman, over 4 rounds, you said this as well. The finishing positions have been really good for Brian Harman. And Jordan Spieth, I understand he's won on short positional golf courses like Colonial or Harbor Town last year, but there's just something off, and one stroke here or there with the putter where he misses a 2.5 footer, those are going to add up eventually. And so he was actually 2 strokes worse in 2022 per tournament than 2021 with the putter, which is a massive difference. And so Brian Harman's much more reliable, and at -120, I'm willing to pay that price.
And Spieth missed another 14-incher last week at one point at the Century Tournament of Champions. The one thing I think when we look at all of our head-to-heads that this course demands, and you have to be, is a great iron player. Bombers do not come play this course because there's a lot of holes that are, to the right and then to the left, and you can only hit it so far off the tee. And bombers don't like playing that. Taylor Montgomery is a bomber. I watched him play at the Farmers Insurance Open last year. And although he's a rising star, Keith Mitchell is a much better iron player than Taylor Montgomery. So, and then we talked about J.J. Spawn. Don't need to last that over Alex Smalley. He's a good player. Again, he's rising. But J.J. Spawn, when you look at what he's done the last, T15, 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 T5, the man's a top 20 machine. And then I do like Spieth this week. I watched him play last week. I thought he played pretty well. I thought his short game was on point. And this is as much about him, guys, as it is about Billy Horschel that I'm fading. I just don't think Billy's in really good form right now. And I think that he let a lot of the live golf stuff take a lot of his energy and his focus away. Now he's got to get back to focusing on golf, and that's what Spieth did, I think, in the kind of the December when he played a lot, played in the father-son. So I don't think he is getting warm. I think he's warm now. So I like Spieth this week, even though, Patrick, you do not. We'll see what happens. All right, that is the head-to-heads. Now it's time for our top 10s and top 20s.
Better than most.
And I clearly screwed up the first time because our man Snake did all the work, and I just went right through the head-to-head, and I apologize for that. It's still a work in progress. So top 10 and top 20 markets. Patrick, let's start with you this time. Who do you like this week?
I went pretty heavy in the head-to-head market with 5 plays, and so that's typically how I try to attack golf tournaments. I know last week was a little bit different with 39 players, but for me, I just try to win my outright money and first-round leader money. I just assume that's a wash. I'm going to lose it, and I'm going to win it back with the head-to-head. So I steered clear of the top 20 and top 10 play, but I'll co-sign Sia's Russell Knox plus 360 for top 20. I love Russ Knox this week as well, and I think he's onto something there.
And guess what? Patrick McDonald is onto something. We tell you all the time, educate and entertain. Sometimes if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't like a certain thing, don't make the bet. Just don't make the bet. You don't have to force anything. Do what makes you feel comfortable. So, Sia, what do you like this week?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about how 3 of these players, and I'll just list them real quick for those of you that are only listening. I've got Corey Connors plus 115, Cam Davis plus 170, Adam Svensson plus 260, and Russell Knox plus 360. Now, I already explained why I like 3 of those. We've touched on Corey Connors. Great course fit, in my opinion, with Corey Connors. He's actually my one and done on the First Cut pod. Coach, you'll be happy to know. But more importantly, he's got, well, just as important, he's got really good recent history here. But one thing to just remind everybody, when you're looking at these markets, I don't go into the top 20 market and be like, I wonder where these guys are at that I like. I scan the market and I see where I think there's value. And if these numbers, plus 115, plus 170, plus 260, plus 360, I think there's value on all 4. I mean, I think Corey Connors not only should finish within the top 20, but I think he's got a really good shot finishing inside the top 15, top 10. So at a plus number, I think there's value there. And again, Cameron Davis, I mentioned how he was 8,500 in DraftKings and probably a little bit mispriced at plus 170. I mean, you're approaching plus 200 for an emerging player with a player pool that at the top has Tom Kim and Sung J M as the best guys, and then Hideki and Jordan Spieth. I think at this tournament, a guy like Cam Davis can compete with those types of players, and certainly the players that are directly underneath those players. So again, Adam Svensson has a very good track record here. I think he was 7th last year. I believe he just win the RSM just a month or 2 ago. Again, he's a guy that certainly has some win equity, maybe not in this tournament, but to top 20, I think that's absolutely in play at plus 260. And then Patrick touched on Russell Knox. I think Russell Knox is another guy that's mispriced both in the betting market and the DFS market. He's emerging in a way that I don't think people are noticing. Can he crash and burn? Yeah, of course. But am I getting value at plus 360? The answer to that is also yes.
And his game fits right into this course. It really does. He's a short hitter. He's a great iron hitter, and he's a positional player. By the way, the top 10 from the RSM got into this event as well. It's hard to believe that was the last PGA Tour event, but it was. In top 10, you get in the next week. Real quick, David says, where do you find the head-to-heads on the books? Matchups are different everywhere on mine. Great question. We always get our head-to-heads from a major book. 2 of mine are from Caesars. 1 is from DraftKings. Sia, you got yours from
Caesars and DraftKings. And Coach, that is kind of a problem, right? Because head-to-heads are different in different books. And I noticed Johnny Boy asked us a question because he has a different one, Spieth over Matsuyama. Just for the record, I do like that. I do like Spieth over Matsuyama.
But take the information. That's my whole point, is we give you all of this information, not just to hear ourselves talk. So if you have a different matchup, say, you know what? They said this about Spieth, and they said this about Hideki. And if that's your matchup, take that information for yourself. That's what you do. Patrick, you got yours from?
Mine were all DraftKings.
Use old DraftKings. There you go. All right. So there you go, David. But there's a lot more consistency over the weekend in round 3s and round 4s because usually they bet against the player they're playing with. So the tournament matchup's a little different. Weekends, you'll have a little more consistency. All right. My 2 plays very quickly. You saw JJ Spawn. I told you, Patrick, I love me some JJ Spawn this week. 4 straight top 20s. Including a T5 last week at the Century Tournament of Champions, and then Sun JM plus 150. The dude is arguably, with Colin Morikawa, the best iron player on tour. You give me him at plus 150 in this field, I'm going to take it all day long. And plus, the man is happy. He has a house. I believe he just got married. There's a lot of tour players that just got married.
Strokes gained home life.
Strokes gained home life.
Everyone knows.
No doubt.
Yeah.
By the way, you guys know I mentioned the whole Tom Kim situation. You guys heard that he had Christmas dinner with the Spieths, right? You heard that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Spieth's kid, Tom Kim, he said he's like his big brother. He's like the whisperer, he calls him. Like his little baby loves Tom Kim. I mean, they are really close to the same age, so I guess there's that. All right, it is time of the show. Who's going to be raising the trophy and the big check come Sunday?
A win for the ages.
Oh, give me some Nance. Oh, give me some Nance. All right, see you, Nejad. All right, now, you don't just have to play one player. If you do it strategically, you can play several different players to win. But give me some that you like this week to be there come Sunday.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the first guy here. I have a bet on him, but I'm not the only one that has a bet on Corey Connors at plus 2,200. Jake, can we see? There we go.
What is
that? This guy, Coach, you want to tell the story here?
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, this guy apparently bet on Corey Connors and thought it was appropriate. I don't know, maybe it is. I wouldn't have done it. He thought it was appropriate to show his betting slip to Corey Connors on the range. To me, and I think you guys agree, isn't that just a gigantic jinx? Like, I would never want the guy I bet on to know that I bet on him because now he's got it in his head potentially. I don't know. But the point is, I'm not the only one that likes Corey Connors this week. That random person who I assume tweeted that also likes Corey Connors. And now Corey Connors knows that. At plus 2,200, I thought it was a fair number. It's been bet down a little bit. I think you probably could have got it at a better number earlier. But again, don't mind that number. Cam Davis, we talked about him at length. Plus 3,500, I do think is a good number. Then I took some shots here. Emiliano Grillo, not a guy that I'm really, and same with Denny McCarthy. So Grillo is 5,500. Denny McCarthy plus 6,000. These are guys I'm not really playing in DFS, but I do think they have the type of upside where they could surprise us and maybe top 20, but maybe even win this thing. We've seen Denny McCarthy's upside as early as last year. And Emiliano Grillo, this seems like a great course for him. And the putter has started to come around for him, or at least it did late last year. So I think those numbers with Grillo and Denny McCarthy are solid. And then again, I'm just going to be an Adam Svensson guy this week. And at plus 7,000, I'm happy to take that number.
Oh, that's worth a sprinkle for damn sure. Worth a sprinkle. By the way, quick trivia question. Do you guys know the last player to repeat at this event? Period.
Jimmy Walker.
Jimmy Walker.
Ooh.
Do you know what his odds are to win this week?
600.
How about plus 60,000? Plus 60,000. Is that 600 to win?
600 to 1.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to do that math and make it. Yes. 600 to 1. Patrick was correct. I'm an idiot. 600 to 1. Oh, how the mighty have fallen in just 8 years. Just 8 years. 600 to 1. I would say it's worth a sprinkle, but I don't think it is at that number, to be honest with you. No offense, Jimmy.
I think it's worth a sprinkle in the DFS market, perhaps. If you just want to dip down to that low 6K range, just throw Jimmy Walker in your lineup. It makes sense. He's got experience here, shorter course. It makes sense.
Great point. All right, Mr. McDonald, tell me why you like, and you have a couple of players that are the same as Sia.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah. This has been Sia's been honking the horn on Cam Davis all show long. So 35 to 1. I like that number as well. And I've already talked about JJ Spawn, JT Poston at 45 and 50 to 1. And Grillo, just like Sia as well. And he had a really good fall. He had 2 top 5 finishes there, one at the Sanderson. He had a really bad triple bogey late in that final round. He easily could have won that tournament. I think a lot of people forget about that. And then he played well at the Zozo Championship as well in Japan. That's another tight tree line course where you got to be accurate off the tee. And like Sia said, the putter for someone like Grillo who could not putt for years, the putter is back and he's putted these greens well throughout the years. So, and my final guy is Hayden Buckley at 80 to 1. I'm not sure I'd play him at this price, to be honest with you. He opened at 130 at some places, and he's been fantastic off the tee. It's his first start of the year. He has a ton of upside for a sophomore. Second season on the PGA Tour, and he T12'd here last year. But I write an article on SportsLine that's dropped every Monday. I liked the price when it came out. I figured I'd share my thoughts as well. But Hayden Buckley 80 to 1 to round it out.
I called one of his featured groups last year, and it may have been the worst round of golf that he ever played. It was like, it was awful. It was awful. So I was like, how does this guy, how's he on the PGA Tour? But he's had a really good 2022. It's not a bad pick. Not a bad pick at all. Now, I do not need to say anything more about JJ Spawn. We've beaten that horse to death. And Spieth, we've talked about that. But Patrick, a little story that I had no idea that you and Russell Henley had so much in common.
Do tell.
Well, me and C are more of a Westin. What are the really nice hotel brands?
Omni,
the Ritz-Carlton,
Westin,
St. Regis.
That's where we feel comfortable. Russell Henley, do you know where he stayed before he won the Sony Open, his first start ever on the PGA Tour?
I don't know this trivia question.
Well, it's got to be a Holiday Inn Express.
Damn right it was. Holiday Inn Express.
Let's go. Let's go.
That's what I think of when I think of Patrick McDonald. He knows about a lot of things because he stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. And yeah, go ahead.
No, true story. Before I took the Virginia bar exam, which this would be back in 2003, where like all the law students were staying, like I was late to booking, so I couldn't stay there. So I had to stay at a Holiday Inn Express. Let me tell you, and this is no joke, I walked into that bar exam fully confident. Holiday Inn Express. There's some magic there. I passed.
Wow. I love the free breakfast at Holiday Inn Express. And Russell Henley, do you know where he ate every meal? Like not non-breakfast meal. California Kitchen.
Ooh,
California Kitchen.
CPK.
One of us does a lot of research for the show. Clearly. So those are my three winners for this week. All right, we've got one more segment before we get the hell out of Dodge and wait for the first tee time on Thursday morning. We call this the Long Shots. Creative, Snake. Very, very creative. All right. This could be anything. This could be a first round leader. This could be somebody with long odds. This could be a winning wire to wire. There's a lot of different what we call exotic bets you can make in the world of golf if you so choose to. So, see Nejad, what do you like this week and which angle are you taking here?
Yeah, I'm taking the first round leader angle because I do that every week. And somehow, especially over the last, 12 to 18 months, I've been hitting these at kind of a weird rate. So let's just see where it goes this year for this show. I mean, I encourage everybody to sort of take these with a grain of salt when it comes to your betting sizes. These are more fun bets. If you happen to hit them, that's fantastic. But we're really looking to bet in the head-to-head market, the top 20 market, maybe a couple outrights. Nonetheless, first round leader. Listen, we talked about Cameron Davis at 50-1. I do like that. Matt McNeely, a guy I'm not really playing this week in DFS, but I've seen him get hot on this course. He doesn't appear to be a very good course fit. I don't like him over 4 rounds, but we know he can be a flat out scorer, and he's done it here before. So I'll take Maverick McNeely at plus 5,500. Andrew Putnam, just a great course fit. Approach, putter. I like him in DraftKings. I just think he's a very good course fit and could absolutely have a very hot round one. Adam Svensson, we've talked about. Patton Kizzire is another guy. I might play a little bit in DFS, but I don't really like over 4 rounds necessarily. But he's got elite history here with 3 top 15s and a win. And this is a guy that can really string birdies together as well. So I think Patton Kizzire at 90-1 is pretty great value. I think Patton Kizzire is almost like your prototypical round one guy that you don't trust over 4 rounds.
Yeah, because he gets tired. Go to the gym. Now, one thing I do here, if you're wondering at home, how do I play 5? What I do is normally, if I have 5 or 6 like these, I chop them up inside of 1 unit. Meaning, if you have 5, then you put 0.2 units on each one of these plays. So the whole thing would be 1 unit. That way you can keep it small. It's fun, and you're not losing more than just 1 unit, whatever your size is, on this fun bet. I think it's a smart way to do it. All right. Now, Patrick McDonald, you've kind of gone the same angle with a couple of different names. Talk to me.
Yeah, just to echo your point, I tend to do like a 20-1 ratio. So if you hit one, every couple months, you're making money back. And so it's the Cam Davis week, clearly, from this show. And I'm co-signing Sia once again, 50-1. I love that price, but let's not forget JJ Spawn. That's you and me, Coach. I'm simpatico with both of you. That's why I'm in the middle right now. So I like him 60-1. He was first round leader last week on a course that probably shouldn't have been a nice fit for him, but he was still able to post the lowest first round. And then Grillo, once again, 66-1. I think it's a hair long. I probably would have made it around 55, 60 to 1. And so I'm getting a few extra points there on a guy who I like to win. And I don't think there's too much of a wind advantage tomorrow. It might actually calm down as the day progresses, but there might be some morning dew, and the softer putting surfaces will be kind of lenient to darts and good approach play early.
By the way, what did you guys make of JJ Spahn's Hawaiian shirt untucked look last week? Did you like it? Not like it?
I'm all in.
Notice it?
I'm all in.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Ricky
he
Fowler
like
did it a while back there, too, and it was a
Yeah.
huge uproar.
It looked like they were going to a luau and been playing 18 holes of golf afterwards. That's what it looked like to me. All right, I'll wrap things up. About 3 weeks ago, because Patrick, as you know, I get asked to be on a lot of golf shows. They like my expertise. And I was on a show with Brandon Matthews' wife. It's called Swing It and Ding It out of Philadelphia. My man Harry Mays is the crew. They're incredible. She is part of that group, and he is starting his PGA Tour career this week. He is, in most circles, considered the longest hitter or one of the longest hitters on the entire PGA Tour. And his numbers this week, I could not believe them. You can get a top 20 at plus 1,400. You can get a top 10 at plus 4,000. He also has the same odds as Jimmy Walker, 600 to 1 to win the entire tournament. I may sprinkle just because I want to see him do well. He's one of those Korn Ferry Tour players that's coming over to the PGA Tour. And I'm telling you, these players show up ready to go, just like Russell Henley did in his very first start coming off the Korn Ferry Tour a few years ago at this very tournament. You can't get better information than right here. So those are all of our picks. We like to end every one of our shows asking my guys, what's the number one most important thing you're looking for this week? And in golf, it's very, very, very important to use for this week or perhaps into the future. Patrick, we'll start with you.
I think this week, unlike last week, there's going to be wind. Kapalua the last couple of years has really died down. But if you're targeting matchups and there might be a wind advantage one wave or another, that's a potential way to get a Friday payday for you. So we're finally starting to get into waves and full fields. And so that's a fun way to attack some of these head-to-head markets. If you're kind of tossed up between two players, is someone might have a morning tee time on Thursday when it's calm, and then it's calm Friday afternoon and vice versa. So I would just keep an eye on that.
Just do a little bit of research, a little bit of work to see what Patrick is talking about. See ya. Talk to me.
Yeah, I've got a bit more of a global take in terms of what I'm looking forward to. It starts with Tom Kim, and then it kind of filters down with some people leaving for LIV. And I kind of beat this drum last week too. You know, there's guys like Tom Kim who we hadn't heard of 2 years ago that are all of a sudden just people that people are fawning over to bet and to watch. And I think there's so many more guys, including guys in this field, that are going to emerge in a similar way as Tom Kim in terms of just fan appeal and being good at golf, that, you know, things we didn't necessarily anticipate. I'm just looking forward over the next few tournaments to see who emerges sort of in that echelon of golfer.
And if we are paying attention to that, we could get some really nice payday, because we've seen, haven't we, guys, the last couple of years, that players like Colin Morikawa or Victor Hovland, before the sports books catch up to them, they cash some pretty big tickets. And so if we keep an eye, people watch this show, and we'll give you the names. We'll try to educate you as much as we possibly can. But there's going to be some players that show up on leaderboard. You're going to say, who is that? And I'm telling you, they've been chopping it up on the Korn Ferry Tour. They don't get a lot of attention. We will give them attention. All right, gentlemen, another good show by you. Now, with that being said, do not forget, coming up at the top of the hour, Early Edge in 5, if you're watching live here on a Wednesday. If not, we're here every single Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time with me, Sia, and Patrick. There's only one thing left to do, and I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these tickets straight to the pay window. For my entire crew, love them all. Counselor of Cash, amateur status, Patrick McDonald. I am the coach. Tell all your friends, it doesn't matter the sport. It doesn't matter the day. We're here every single day since December of 2020. And we're going to be here until the end of time, because that's what we do, especially in golf at the Early Edge. Good luck.